committee meeting will come to order. The reasons go in this order, then go to finance, State Board of Accounts, the state of Indiana, according to Indiana code requires. Thing on the agenda, we passed several months ago, I think it was back in December, a price increase with the utilities. Now we're doing a resolution to make it legal that Greg can sell his bond so we can start work. So, Greg, you want anything to say?
Yeah, I think, hello, everybody. Thank you. I sent Carl a bond summary that you probably all got in your email. I printed it out if you'd like to have it. Would you like one printed? Anyone? You know, the SRF doesn't make anything simple. And so I did the best I could to try to explain it with the help of some of our consultants. I think in looking at the bonds and what we're applying for, two of the things that jumped out at me the most is they make you build into contingency for projects going over the value that you estimate before the bids come in. So they build it into the bond, but if you don't use that money, you don't have to pay it back. So although they raise the amount of the bond, that's really just saying, if you need that money, it's here so you don't have to come back and reapply, but it does not mean that you're applying for that entire amount. So that's one thing that I thought was interesting. The second thing was the grant money we got to do the lead service line replacement program comes in 3 tranches. The first tranche, I explained to everybody, was $6.3 million of money we wouldn't have to pay back. They've since increased that to $7.1 million of money we wouldn't have to pay back, for a total of $24 million of bond or of grant money. The difference is, and this is something I didn't know, to receive the grant from the SRF, you apply for it as a bond, but it's a bond you don't have to repay. So when you look at the bonds that we're applying for, the original amount of $95 million, which was the amount we put and came to everybody with and explained, and we've all been talking about, the actual amount's gone from $95 million to $128 million. And I explained that in my description to you. Most of that is the contingencies they made us put in, and it's the bond money for the grant that they had us add in. And then it's also some of the Superfund money that we're getting to do the site cleanup for the Exide plant. So those were some of the things I thought were interesting from the bond conversation, that they give you grant money, but a grant is a bond you don't repay. That was, I felt, something I didn't know. And so I thought I'd want to explain that to everybody in writing so you'd have it. So what we're looking for is the resolutions are the 2 resolutions for one is for the stormwater district of $40,900,000, and we're going to go to City Council resolution for that on February 6th. The second one is the water works resolution for a bond of $49,100,000. And then in addition to that, when we're ready, and when the PER is ready and we're ready to go out for further bonding, we'll have the $38,900,000 for the sewage works, which will be for sewer work and the head works of the plant. So that one will still be coming. So all in, we could request up to about 6 bonds. Each of the 3 utilities will probably take out 2 bonds, and that's for a 2022 bond and then a 2023 and a 2025 bond, and I explained that in writing. So what we're here now to do for Carl, what he just said, is answer any questions from the utility committee on the resolution for the waterworks bond and the stormwater bond. The difference in the bonds The waterworks bond is 47 pages. The stormwater bond is 2. And the main reason is how the 2 utilities are structured. If you recall back when stormwater was developed by the state, they are a district, and districts get treated differently than utilities. That's why, if you're wondering why one bond is so many pages and the other one isn't, that's just the legal writings that you have to have for getting a bond in each of the utilities. So,
Did we get the stormwater bond?
you should have both bonds. You should have a waterworks bond.
I think it was in that was
I must have missed it. I only had the waterworks bond.
Well, they were both there. I thought I sent them both together.
I think you only got the one, because I got the summary, and then I got the bond ordinance, the 30-some pages, whatever. But I don't remember getting the other ordinance.
You guys get the,
It's just the,
It's just the summary. It's in the email, it looks like. Wasn't the actual.
the bond and the summary.
Let's see, Greg. Bond issue questions.
Water bond.
It would have been separate because the water bond is updated from a SRF meeting that got completed just about a week ago.
how much was the stormwater bond request for up to?
Stormwater is 40,900,000, and the waterworks bond is 49,100,000. In our dates, the waterworks bond is February 6th. Council adopts the revised waterworks ordinance. The stormwater revenue bond is the same thing, February 6th. So these are both on our plan schedule. And we've had the public hearings and all of the public notices.
Yeah, the public hearing was on 1/31/23,
Yeah.
and
And Stormwater Board adopts declaration resolution.
So
126.
it's coming up, you're saying?
131 is what I got here in the email. You got to hold the hearing.
Yeah, hold public hearing on declaration
Yeah,
resolution.
no, on January 31st.
Right.
Yeah, so that's coming up here
Right.
at the meeting. Okay.
So are you saying you don't have the stormwater one,
No.
Dave?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And I didn't know whether I
And in
missed it
the
or
email
what.
that mine came, it didn't come through.
Okay.
So they, just for clarity, Greg, so they upped our grant request for the water, or the pipe replacement?
Yeah, it was 6.3 million, and then they were going to give us the rest in an interest-free loan. That went up to 7.1 of grant money as of last week.
7.1 or 7.2?
So I think it's 7.1. It's actually a whole number, so I'll give you the entire, I rounded that, but they gave us a whole number.
Okay.
And that was based upon what they had left. So they had remaining funds left that they.
So is that, and then you said they're upping it for the next 2 years, or are we still having to reapply each year?
We have to reapply. Yeah, we'll have to reapply each year. That's just for this tranche, is less we have to borrow.
So I guess my question is, and I know it's just because I'm not understanding, Greg, it's not because I'm questioning what's being done. We're increasing this $36 million, according to your summary sheet. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we have to bond for all that, and we have to pay back these grants, is it gonna be similar to how they're working the stormwater and the brownfield money? Is it the same concept where they're gonna reduce the percentage, so we end up paying the same amount as what the 90?
Yeah, not.
Because I'm concerned
It's-
about our rate structure.
It is, and it's too much, that would be too much. So what they're telling us is we only repay the amount back that we use. So although, here's why they say you have to bond for the total amount of the lead service line replacement. Because if you don't follow, if they give you the money and you don't follow their rules, then they're gonna make you pay back the entire amount. So if we don't, let's say, pay prevailing wage, or we don't follow their post-inspection sequence.
The houses or whatever.
Exactly, right. So if we don't follow, that's their stick in making sure that we meet all of their requirements before they forgive the amount. But they do defer the payment until the project's finished. So the anticipation is to never have to pay it back. So unlike the Superfund site where they just reduced our interest rate so we didn't have to pay anything, this comes off our total. The lead service line comes off the total.
So basically, we really are never gonna have that money, it's just kind of a paperwork process and,
It's a hold.
yeah.
It's a hold, just like the contingency money is. So they're gonna hold it. If we need it, it's available to us, the contingency money. The grant money is similar to that if we do not meet their requirements and they require us to pay it back, then we'll be required to. But to your point, we wouldn't anticipate to do that. And they also don't build it into our payment structure. So we're not seeing that 35 million in any of our payment information.
Okay, that was the confusion I had is, we established the rate structure
Based upon, right,
Governor.
exactly right. And we're not seeing any of that change. So the rate structure we proposed for the 95 million is still at the rate structure we developed for the next 4 years.
So basically, everything in this one column here where you've got additions to capital improvements is money they will just hold?
Yes. Yep. Well, it's in addition to capital improvements, they're actually one line at a time, because if you look at the Superfund site, we'll actually get that money.
Yeah, okay, that's the one where they reduce the rates.
So they reduced our rate to 0% on the LTCP CO 11 and 12 to 0 for us to get that $3 million of capital. The lead service line is a hold. That's actually going to be 7.1 million, so that's going to fluctuate. The other proposed lead line grant is the rest of it. The contingencies is just a percentage of the total forecast and the PERs that we put in. And if we don't need them, we don't use them, and they evaporate.
Okay. Now, what happens, for instance, like do you foresee the additional 2 years on the lead line? Let's say we apply and we don't get it, then what happens?
Well, if we don't get it, I think we would stop. I think we would try to find other funding. Because we'd have to really consider how far along we went. And let me explain why. Their rules for this bond money that they're providing, or the grant money they're providing, are very restrictive. So if they told us that they weren't going to fund us in the second tranche, we would probably pull the plug on the SRF program and redesign the lead service line in a more economical fashion. We really are following their rules are cumbersome. The prevailing wage is very prohibitive. Some of the other details around material handling and sourcing are very restrictive. Getting bids and contractor management is very restrictive. Those things are really driving the price up of the project in our eyes. So we probably wouldn't do it the same way. If we were using our own money, we wouldn't be doing it the same way.
Now, I know you talked about some alternatives that would have been more cost effective.
We would have built it into a tier structure where we would say each house would be on 3 tiers, kind of like a easy, hard, really hard, and give the contractor, and we would walk to each house, say to the contractor, is this a tier 1, 2, or 3 project? And decide as we came up to the house what that was going to be, mark it down and say, okay, this is now a $1,000 house, this one's a $3,000 house, this is a $6,000 house. That's what we would do, because not all of them are gonna be hard. But what the SRF says is you can't do that. We have to have a bid from the contractor to complete all of the houses for one price. So what the contractors do is they take the $1,000 houses and the $9,000 houses, and they say, okay, we're gonna say every house is now gonna be $6,000. And if you say we have 4,000 houses to do, they're saying that's $24 million, and that's how they come. So funny
I
how,
knew there'd been talk about that. I just trying to figure out how that would work for us. And then the one last question is, you're basically writing a bond request for, like you said, phases. And if we get the bonding in place, then we wouldn't really implement like the 25 bond till we got to that time period?
right, because we might be able to readjust.
Okay.
Right. We've already seen some changes in what we think is forward-looking on some of the opportunities that I put in the capital asset plan for 2025. We have a large customer that we'll talk about, that I think, based upon phosphorus removal might change a little bit. And we put $5 million in there for phosphorus removal.
Okay.
That we may not bear the burden of.
Yeah,
So we would take that out of that 2025 bond.
right. I know talking about there. Okay. Well, that was the only other question I had, but that clears it up for me. I was just trying to figure out how it was gonna work when we're getting all this kind of
Yeah.
upfront
I was concerned,
process done up front, which probably is cost effective for us, I would assume, but.
yeah, I was worried about our credit, we set the rates based upon 95 million. And when they came back and said, no, we're going to give you a 128.9, I said, well, how can we afford that?
Right.
And that's when they came back and explained it. Like, this is what Jennifer wrote down for me.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right, to move forward then to the February the 6th? Yep. Okay. All right, thanks, Greg.
My one question is going to be, I'm going to ask in advance that on the, just to prepare for it, on the February 6th meeting for the water revenue bond, if we can do both readings on the February 6th and suspend the rules. So I'm going to request that. Now, I did have our lawyer give us a ruling on that, and she said that we could do that with a bond, but I wanted to tee that up before I came to you and asked.
State statute says we can, but depends on the policy that we have or had here at the council on second readings. So we just bring it up on February the 6th and see if we can get a vote on it. Unless
Okay.
someone else has a comment on that.
The reason I want to do it, my concern is I want to close on the March deadline with the SRF, because I also don't want to jeopardize the funding that they're giving us of the $3 million and the 0% interest rate, because that's in a pool of money that's separate than the pool that we're getting for other SRF funds. And so they said, can you close on the first day of March? Well, the only way we're going to do that is if we have them both at the same time. So,
Any other questions?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Or you could have a special meeting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what the council decided on February the 6th, and they are, because you got one objection that it won't go to the second vote, because in the past, we've objected. I know when Jan Farley was here, wanting some money for the Parks Department, we didn't give her a second reading, and she withdrew everything. So again, it depends, which we'll discuss on the 6th, what the policy's gonna be for the board. Are we gonna do second readings every time somebody wants one? So, yeah.
Right. But keep in mind that Superfund site cleanup money is the request of the city.
Like our attorney says, if we do it on the 6th, then we have to have it passed, we can have another special council
Yeah.
meeting before March 1st to pass, so it depends on what the council decides. All right, at 6:20, public utility meeting comes to an end.
Did you want me to do that, just run it through or not?
Yeah, you can just start it and end it.
Okay.
That way,
All
when
right.
they come to audit,
All right.
Dwayne's got record that we
All
did
right.
what they told us to do.
All right, then at 6:20, I'm gonna start the finance committee meeting. Like Carl said, if there's any additional questions financially pertaining to the stormwater and the water bonds, speak now or wait till February 6th.
Come see.
Yep. Anybody else have anything?
Nope,
Are we okay to just move this on?
yep.
Okay, thank you, Greg. All right, next up is Dwayne. He's got some account that he needs to, I believe a couple more accounts to add.
Yeah,
a
we've
couple
got-
numbers to change, financial accounts.
Yeah, you guys have, I think, the list of numbers that we needed to approve. We've already approved our charter of accounts, but we had additional ones like the opioid ones that came in, Make My Move, Combined Economic District, the mall TIF fund, the hotel TIF fund, the Lexington Village TIF fund, police bond fund, and then we've got 4 for Lexington Village on the bond structure there that have to be done. So those numbers, I provided you guys with. Dave pointed out that one of them, the Lexington Village one, was the same as the non-reverting infrastructure at 4476. So we'll change that one, make the Lexington Village 4479 will become the number for it. And then we had already approved this perpetual cemetery fund and the cemetery endowment at 2258 and 2259. Well, then 6 months later, when they finally came up with the opioid settlement numbers, the state used those numbers for our opioid accounts. So we've got to change 2258 and 2259 to the restrictive and non-restrictive, or excuse me, from the non-restrictive to those. So in other words, we're going to change the cemetery perpetual fund and the cemetery endowment to 2258 and 2259. And that'll put us in line with what we need. So those were already established, but we'll reestablish them as 2 different numbers. And that should be all the accounts that we need. And also I will also be putting in there, closing the 2 accounts for the TIF district, which would be the East End account and the Gateway account. Those 2 accounts will be closed and be consolidated into the combined economic development area, which has already been established. So we'll simply be closing those accounts and then moving the funds into one.
Which fund are you moving both those into?
To the combined economic development fund. And that district has always been the combined district, but a few administrations ago, they decided to split it up and call it East End and Gateway. Well, now RDC wants to go back and put it in as one fund again. And that's how we receive it from the tax distribution is as one fund. So that way we won't have to split it up either.
On my paper, I'm not seeing the cemetery, so I just want to make sure
The
the numbers.
numbers for it,
Yeah. I heard what you said, I just want to make sure it gets in the. 'cause it
yeah,
doesn't have
so the
S.
cemetery was 2256 and 2257. Those have to be used because of state guidelines.
Right, I understood what you're saying,
Yeah.
it's not in writing. but
Right,
I'm-
yeah, those are 2 that we just fixed, or we just realized today.
Okay,
So that's the reason why, but they will be in writing when we put
Okay.
the resolution together. I
That's
mean,
what I
it'll
was-
come in that way, and it'll actually be a separate part of the resolution because we have to change those account numbers to that to establish it. So it'll have to be worded a little differently.
I was just worried.
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for Dwayne? Is that it, Dwayne?
I hope so.
Me too.
Until next time.
Yeah, until
Yeah.
next time.
And Amy, those numbers that you were looking for, the chart he was talking about, I can't tell you how far back it was, but we previously passed that in a council meeting. So
Yeah,
if
we
you-
can't, we passed a chart of accounts in like, I want to say
remember that.
February or
3 to
March.
4
Yeah.
But
numbers.
I was just looking at what you pushed out and I didn't see the cemetery and I thought, I just want to make sure we get it.
That was a Monday morning catch.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we'll move that forward to the February 6th council meeting if everybody's in agreement.
Yep.
All right. And the third and last item, I believe, on my agenda is some funding for the police station furbishings. You want to come up, Travis? I'll do a little background for Travis here, and then he can take it from there, but when we established the funding for the new police station, in conversation with Steinbergers, they told us that they had already gone extensively through a list of equipment with the police department, and their estimate for all of that was around $219,000. But they admitted that if we did this on our own, we could save quite a bit of money. So what Travis and Cassie have done is basically take the tentative list they had done and gone basically room to room, and the number they've come up with at this point is just under $170,000. So I'll let you take it from there, Travis.
Yes, sir, thanks. Dave, did everybody get copies of these? I didn't, I know you got one, so.
I
I just kind of want to go through everything. When this first started, we did meet with Steinberger. We went through some of their, I believe it was National Furniture is the company that they used. We put together a list, like Dave said, it was well over 220,000. With that, I think we came back and we said, hey, we could get this a little bit cheaper, so we went ahead and did everything and put it together. So we actually been working on this for, seems like a very long time. We was able to save about $32,000. That's in total of everything, not just including the furniture. The furniture itself was $142,000. So the original, from what Dave priced out at $220,000, we was able to get the furniture alone for $142,000. That outfits every office in our department. That's new desks, new chairs, new conference tables, new filing cabinets, those things. We've been piecing our equipment together and our furniture together for the last 20 years, for those of you who've walked through and seen it. Then it becomes little things, toilet brushes, plungers, mop hangers, different things that we've never had to use because LMU, yeah, that's why Greg's kicking us out. So we've been terrible tenants. So we started going through this and actually putting things together that we would need to be our own building. And we didn't want to forget everything. So as you guys can see, we tried to keep it as local as possible. And with the police department being spread out now, we have to add another printer, scanner. So every floor would have one, or every division would have their own, because we have to fax all of our reports to the judges, or email all the reports to the judges and prosecutors as well every time we make an arrest. So those things will be located in different areas. And then our evidence room as well, we have to have certain things for that, like stainless steel tables. So that basically the total of everything that we could think of possibly opening on day one came out to $168,155.92. We have another option out here. We're waiting to hear back. We're looking for a $4,000 donation. We've reached out, and they're going to hopefully provide the outdoor picnic tables and a couple other things that will go with the police department. So that number actually could change down $4,000 less. Inside the police department, we have a chaplains program for you, those who are not aware. We have 2 chaplain rooms, or serenity rooms is what they're called on the blueprint. we've reached out to two local churches, Church of the Brethren and Revolution Church, who are going to furnish both of those rooms on their own dime. So we won't have to furnish those two rooms, which will include a couch, two chairs, a TV, and a couple other things to hang on the wall, as well as decorative stuff. And they're working with Molly Grable at the Grave Mill to get that furnished as well. So that's another area that we will not have to furnish on our own. So, but everything's in here that Dave, I believe, handed out, and it pretty much outlines everything that we'll need to get up and running. If anybody has any other questions, I can answer them the best I can.
Just a couple other things I'll mention. Travis sent out an email the other day where they applied for grants, got $16,800, I believe.
Almost 17, Dave, yes. Yep,
towards
16,888.
Cameras,
Yep, body cams.
which will save us that amount. Plus, they worked with the insurance, saved us
I-
$10,000 in our Lexi pool. So
I did.
Travis and Cassie been doing a fine job of getting ready for the new building.
Thank you.
All right, so we've already purchased body
No.
cams?
So the body, well, no, I was actually, we had, was a lot of the money, Carl, and I didn't purchase them. I was going through kind of looking at different prices with different companies. I had filled out a grant, and I could not make the purchase of the body cams until I was awarded the grant. And I just found out last week that we was awarded the grant. So now I can make a decision by January 31st with whatever company we decide to go with. And I think the grant price, I believe, was $16,888 was what we was awarded off of the body cam. So, and then I worked with Brett Kane for our Lexipol, and Mr. Lehman and Brett were behind the Lexipol SOP system, and I called Brett and we had a conversation, and I'm not quite sure how he did it, maybe you can answer that, but I know he saved $10,000 off the initial, or off of our price. How he gives that back to the city, I'm not 100% sure, but I was able to cut that initial cost off $10,000 by working with our city, our insurance.
So these cameras you're gonna buy, I mean, total cost on that's gonna be what? Approximately?
Without the grant, it's like $124,000, and that's for 5 years.
And you have that in your budget, or you're gonna
Yeah,
come to
that's budgeted,
cancel?
Carl.
It's already budgeted?
It's already,
And that includes backup, storage?
that's the software, it'll go to the cloud, but that's the server, the redaction, the dictation, to charge the units, that's everything for 5 years.
And by law, how long do we have to keep that storage?
It just depends on what it is. So everything is a little different, so I don't know the answer.
I mean, is that a law by the state of Indiana? I mean, do we have to keep it, or is that a
There's
policy?
different laws
Yeah.
because of the different crimes, so it depends on what crime it is.
Yeah.
We have, just like evidence, evidence is kept per whatever the crime may be, so I don't know that
Yeah,
answer off
but,
the
I
top.
mean, are you gonna keep it more than a year?
Normally, it's like 180 days.
Oh, and then after that, it's
Then, yep.
disposed of? Okay.
Amy, have any?
Which we have plenty of room on our server, so it's not too big of an issue as far as that goes.
Yeah.
It goes to the.
Well, I mean, court cases, these attorneys try to drag it out as long as possible because the more bucks they make, so
Sure.
180 days isn't very long.
Sure.
Amy, did you have a question?
I was just gonna say.
I love you there, Mr. Attorney.
Thank you for doing, that's a lot of work.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that.
We actually, it was, and I appreciate the thanks, because it was room by room several
Yeah.
times. Because we have to have desks that go the right angle, turn the right way, in accordance with our plugins. This building is, yes, it's a remodel, but when you go in there, Dave's been in there once in the last, right before Christmas.
month, yeah.
It's a complete remodel. Their walls are being torn down, they're adding new things. This is not, we're moving in because they painted the walls. So I've sat in a lot of meetings where, I think it was 3 hours long of where we're putting plugs in the walls. So we've had to change it a few times, and then obviously try to get it down as low as we can to do our best to save money.
Request on this would be that we would allocate $170,000 basically for a little leeway. They've got a little bit of budgeted money in case there'd be some changes. but that would come out of the lit fund if everybody was in favor of that.
One thing I do want to add real quick, Dave.
Sure.
With the furniture, just to let you guys know, that's also them delivering and setting up for us as well. So we will not have to put anything together or have any officers as far as overtime building, desks and chairs and everything. That's included in that total package that they'll deliver it on site and they'll put it together room by room as well.
Talked about last week when he gave me the quote here. They're planning to use some of the old furniture, but a lot of it won't.
Right.
So I talked to Dwayne today, and he said basically that the auction is up to Jacob to coordinate, and that there is no specific guideline on when. So we could hopefully coordinate all that to where as you move out, we'd have and all the money that we'd get from what was left would go back into the lit fund.
Yes, sir.
Have you got a plan put together already? I know you do, of how you're gonna move, and is it gonna be overnight?
We're getting there.
Getting there?
We're getting there.
I heard
One of the,
LMU is going to move you out.
well, see, we're recorded, we're good to go. One of the biggest helps with that, Carl, was them putting the furniture together for us. So once that gets put in there, I have a couple options that I've been able to use locally to help us move every time that we moved our gym. So I'm going to reach out to those people as well, and I'm sure they'll give us a big hand getting that done. We'll most likely, depending on when this happens, we'll probably move like one division over administratively, maybe the detectives or patrol, vice versa. We'll run our server remote because they're building us a new server down there from our new server that we just got put in. So everything will be moved over, and then hopefully it'll be operational not too long after that. But we have a couple ideas of how we want to do it, so yes, sir.
According to the Logan Sport newspaper, the mayor had a quote in there that we're moving July 4th. Is that correct, Mayor?
No,
That's printed.
tentatively, we should, if everything goes as on schedule as of right now, they should turn the keys over to us at the end of June.
Okay.
So moving in, with the fair, 4th of July, those type of things that are happening that first week or so of July, I would anticipate somewhere right after that time frame, and then obviously a ribbon cutting and everything once we get everything established and inside, and everybody kind of gets a foothold of what we're doing. So as of right now, as long as everything continues to move and progress the way it is, it's looking at the end of June.
Jonathan, you have anything for Travis?
Job well done. Consistently, you've tried to keep everything cost efficient throughout your time, so I appreciate that. Thank you,
sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing it.
Move this to the February 6th meeting? Yep. All right.
Thank you, council.
Any other financial business to take care of? All right. With that, I will call the Finance Committee meeting to an end at 6:38.
That up. I'm gonna see if that July.
Check
date-
it out.
I'm gonna check it out now.
That paper, watch what you say in the paper, 'cause they don't always print the truth there, Mayor.
Oh,
Days early.
okay.
Can I add something real quick?
Sure.
The reason you don't have the stormwater bond is because the stormwater board meeting is Thursday, in which they'll approve it. So you'll get it on Thursday.
Okay.
That's why. They have to approve it.
6:39 p.m. Monday, January 23rd, 2023. I'm Chris Martin, calling to order the special called session of the Logansport Common Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Amy Dinsmore,
Present.
Larry Hood, absent. Jonathan Nelms,
Present.
Jake Ladon,
Present.
Scott Petey,
Present.
Carl McPherson,
Here,
Dave Morris.
Present.
Reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
Mayor, we had a public utility meeting today to discuss the Logansport utility bond that'd be going forward for a vote on February the 6th. That's it.
Finance meeting, also today, January 23rd, where we moved the stormwater, and I'm not sure we can move the waterworks bonds forward at this point.
You can move the waterworks.
Or the stormwater, I mean. So we just moved the waterworks bonds forward, and we discussed some funding accounts and some TIF consolidations and the police station funding for furniture and accessories. And those are going to the February 6th committee meeting, or council meeting.
Mr. Mayor, there was a Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting on the 17th. Items of discussion were 2 alley vacations, one at East-West Alley between Balsam and Abelia Street, the other one on 22nd Street. Both of those were moved forward to the February 6th meeting. We had 2 land transfer requests to Redevelopment Commission, one at Riverside, the other at the Jefferson School property. Both are on the agenda tonight. We discussed the vacant property ordinance, and that has been moved to the February 6th meeting. And then we discussed the traffic and vehicle ordinance, which was moved forward to the March council meeting.
It's the same
Yeah.
night.
No old business, on to new business. Resolution 2023-103, Councilman Morris.
Resolution 2023-103, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, to approve and enter into a land acquisition agreement with the Logansport Redevelopment Commission. I would move that forward for a vote.
Second.
I got a question on that there. This that we're moving forward on that, this is the old
Jefferson School.
Jefferson School? Okay, I thought we already did that. We didn't? Okay, that,
Take it on.
okay,
We
All right.
we took it from the school.
yeah, all right.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Carl McPherson.
Yes,
Jonathan Nelms.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-103 passes. Resolution 2023-104, Councilman Nelms.
Resolution 2023-104, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, to approve and enter into a land acquisition agreement with the Logansport Redevelopment Commission. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on Resolution 2023-104.
A second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Carl McPherson.
Yeah.
Amy Dinsmore,
Yes.
Jake Ladon,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-104 passes. Any public comments? Anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment, please come to the mic. State your name and address for us, please.
Thank you. Paul Wilhelm, 630 South 15th Street. I know this is going to be coming up before the council in future council sessions. Basically referring to the Erie Avenue project that's going to be coming down the pike. I've been looking at this. I've been talking to some of the neighbors in Midtown as well as some of the people along Erie Avenue. We posted this on the Logansport Landmarks page. There's a lot of feedback there from the community. And I'd encourage people to take a look at that and see where the community is. There are a lot of issues, I think, that have been raised in the community that parts and aspects of this plan do not address well. There are concerns about the bike lanes being in proximity to the actual streets as opposed to being set off with the structure of the sidewalks. I don't understand that because there's a lot of grant money out there to incorporate bike trails with pedestrian sidewalks. It's a safer configuration for the community, improves the walk score. Some of the residents were a little concerned about the sight lines for businesses because the street is so far out relative to like Pasanelli's and places like that. They'll be 20, 25 feet away off the sight line. There's also the human cost in this plan. When I was in Indianapolis is doing a lot of these types of projects where they're massive street projects, lots of landscaping, and they're sort of, for lack of a better term, they're big gentrification projects. And if we're not careful, a lot of the elderly residents, a lot of the poor residents in the community often get pushed out by these kinds of large financial investments. And I think that as we proceed down, number one, we need to engage the community more. I think the council should hold some meetings maybe at council, but also out in the community. But two, we need to look at ways that we can lessen the things that normally happen out of this. I know I was involved in a project in Holy Cross when we lived down there. It's a little disconcerting when you buy a house for $53,000, it's assessed at $53,000, and 3 years later it's assessed at $166,000. 3 years later it's assessed at $242,000 because of the nature of this type of gentrification. Brings in a lot of bigger dollar developers and investors. They'll buy up rental property is dirt cheap, and they're buying it for the land value, not the real estate itself. So a lot of elderly people and a lot of poor people find themselves displaced by this type of project. And I think there are things we need to discuss in that realm. There may be some avenues for historic preservation protections, which would help some of the district in terms of that. And I also think we need to look at some form of tax abatement for seniors and low-income people who own their houses there. And the ownership rate's only about 25% in that neighborhood, just to be sure that they can weather a transition that might occur out of this type of development. I know we're a long way off of actually building this, but I think those are some community discussions we need to start having, because while it looks great on paper, when you get it down to the neighborhood level and the people who are actually going to have to live there, it's going to have an impact on them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right. Any council member comments?
I just say a couple of things. Travis, again, thank you for all you're doing on this. I want to thank Jacob for the brownfield funding that we've acquired. That's quite an accomplishment for the city of Logansport to have the ability to clean up that Exide site over there. So that's going to be huge. I really never thought I'd see it done in my tenure around here, so I appreciate it, as well as just it excites me. And Paul, I would just say I appreciate what you came here and said tonight. And I'm going to admit to you that I haven't even had the opportunity to look at these, so to hear what you have to say gives me another perspective as I do take a look at these prints. But you were Johnny on the spot on this one. But, you know, I think with the funding we're going to be looking at for a project like this, we've got plenty of time to really look at the plans and do things right. So.
Any other council member comments? All right. Miscellaneous business and any matters not already considered, including ADA Section 504 compliance or concerns.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call for question.
Jonathan Nelms,
Yes.
Jake Don,
Yeah.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Amy Densmore,
Yes.
Carl McPherson,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 6:50 p.m.
Sorry.